Welcome, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. This is Real Big Ten Football Talk +1 with Chris. I am Chris, and we've got a real wing-dinger of a matchup in this one. It is the Wolverines in desperation mode in Happy Valley. That's right, it is the 16th ranked Michigan Wolverines going on the road to face the red-hot number 8 Penn State Nittany Lions. And without further ado, let's look at our food for thought. Michigan has mustered a combined 24 points on offense to ranked opponents. Here's a kicker. They won one of those matchups by scoring 10, which we'll look at in a moment. Before we really get started, Michigan doesn't rank up or doesn't match up real well versus what Penn State likes to do versus what Michigan likes to do. Michigan's offense has struggled mightily against tough defenses, which Penn State is. Michigan's defense plays tough. They've got heart, but their offense doesn't do a good job of picking them up, which we'll soon see in the stat lines. But just food for thought in addition to what I've said here. Penn State has only played and beaten one ranked opponent, that is Iowa. Likewise with Michigan. Michigan has played two ranked teams, but they've only beaten one as well. Both teams need this win to keep pace with Ohio State in the East, but Michigan needs it more with the one loss they've already sustained to the Badgers. So, obviously, this is a must-win game for both, but definitely one for Michigan if they want to have any chance at a playoff or anything they wanted to accomplish earlier in the year. The Wolverines have to win this game. That's why I say they're in desperation mode. Argue with me. Tell me they're not. I'll tell you you're a liar. Michigan's defense has forced 12 turnovers this year. Quite impressive. Yet their offense hasn't given up 13. Michigan might have won that game in Madison, but their offense just can't get going. Even against Illinois, their offense didn't do great, and they allowed Illinois to stay in it. So, whom have these teams played so far? Let's look at the tail of the tapes first. Michigan is 5-1 currently overall, 3-1 in conference play. Penn State is perfect 6-0, 3 of those wins in conference play. Who has Michigan played first, since they are the road team? Middle Tennessee State. In fact, there's not many wins that I would say are impressive for the Wolverines. Allowed 21 points to Middle Tennessee State before scoring 40 and winning that game. Not an impressive victory in my eyes because of the 21 given up. Army, that was actually a more impressive win than I think many people give Michigan credit for. The spread, or actually it's not a spread option offense they faced, it's a triple option offense they faced. Very difficult to defend against. Just ask anybody in the ACC when they play Georgia Tech, or Notre Dame when they play Navy. Those are not easy offenses to defend against. The fact that Michigan won that game is a testament to their toughness. Albeit they only scored 24 points on that Army defense, but a win's a win. That was a tough, hard-fought victory for the Wolverines. But, unfortunately, did not bode well for them in the next game, which they got crushed by the Badgers in Camp Randall Stadium, 35-14. Michigan looked awful in that loss. That is why I did make it red font. But Michigan gained some confidence against the horrible Rutgers Scarlet Knights in the Big House, shutting out that team 52-0. And did also beat the number 14 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. Did win 10-3 in the Big House. An impressive victory for Michigan's defense, not so much for their offense. When you score 10 points, you probably don't win that game very often unless you have an excellent defense that only gave up 3. Quite a dominant performance by Michigan's defense. Horrible by their offense. Then Michigan did beat Illinois in Champaign 42-25. Not a bad job by Michigan's offense. But needed to do a better job on defense against a bad offense, which Illinois has. Illinois is tough, they're scrappy, I like them, but lacks talent. Michigan should have dominated that team by more than that. Michigan has the talent, the pedigree. Illinois has neither of those things, yet Illinois stayed in the game longer than they should have. Now looking at Penn State. Penn State hasn't really played a whole lot of great teams, but they've dominated the teams they played for the most part. Coming out of the gate, hammering Idaho and Happy Valley 79-7, followed it up with a questionable defeat of a bad MAC team in the Buffalo Bulls, 45-13. Next, won a close game against their rival Pitt Panthers, 17-10. A tough game, I get it, it's a rivalry game, I don't care. Should have been by more than that if Penn State wants my respect for that victory. Penn State did hammer Maryland in College Park, 59-0. An impressive conference victory, even though Maryland is reeling. Still, you shut out any team, I don't care what team it is, that is impressive. Not an easy feat to do. Did crush Purdue 35-7 in Happy Valley as well, and an impressive victory in Iowa City against the then 17-ranked Iowa Hawkeyes, 17-12. Both teams have had questionable wins and decent wins, so both of these teams haven't played poorly, but Michigan needs to pick it up on offense. Let's look at Michigan's defeat of Iowa, first of all. Iowa was the visiting team in that game, so we'll look at how Michigan's defense fared first. Giving up only 6 of 17 on third down, 35.2% on third down. Hawks only got 18 total first downs. The stat that really jumps out in my mind is Michigan only gave up 1 rushing yard. 1. That's dominance. That's how you only give up 3 points to somebody, by giving up 1 yard on the ground. That's dominance. That's dominating the line of scrimmage. But to give up 260 yards to Nate Stanley, who hasn't played great this year. Stanley went 23 of 42 passing, 0 touchdowns thrown, 3 picks. Again, Michigan's offense should have capitalized more on those turnovers. Your defense gives you a short field, you've got to take advantage of it. You've got to score more than 10 points. Only gave up 261 total yards of offense to the Hawks, and the Hawks committed 8 penalties for 60 yards. Again, Michigan's offense got to take better advantage of the miscues these teams give you when you're on the field. Michigan's D also forced 4 turnovers, but lost the time of possession battle. A big red mark in my eyes. When you only give up 261 yards of offense, your offense should stay on the field longer than 26 minutes and 3 seconds. How did Michigan's offense do? Quite horribly. In fact, I have to wonder if they had a bunch of homeless people putting on Michigan jerseys and playing offense for them. Only went 3 of 13 on third down. That's 23%. 23% of the time you stayed on the field when you got to third down offense. That's awful. Hurts my heart for your defense. 13 total first downs. Did get 120 yards on the ground. Not bad, considering the defense you played. But only 147 yards through the air. Shea Patterson went 14 of 26 through the air. No touchdowns thrown, and 1 pick yourself. Only got 267 yards of total offense. With all the turnovers your defense forced, with the fact your defense played solid, played lights out, your offense should have done a better job. Now, you only committed 4 penalties for 35 yards. Not bad. Committed the 1 turnover, the 1 pick. But, again, lost the time possession battle. All intents and purposes, you should have lost this game. It's a good thing you have a daggone good defense. Moving on. Looking at Penn State, same victory of that same Hawkeye squad. It helps us to see a common opponent. So if we have that here, we'll look and see how Penn State fared. Penn State was the road team, so we'll look at their offense first. Did go 10 of 19 on third down, 52.6%. 20 first downs in total. 177 yards on the ground. But only 117 through the air. Not great. If you only go have 117 yards through the air, you should really have more rushing yards than that. Sean Clifford did go 12 of 24 on passing. Quite inaccurate, to say the least. but did get 1 touchdown thrown, 0 picks. Pretty good, at least as far as that goes, but only 294 yards of total offense. Did commit 8 penalties for 80 yards. That was a contributing factor for sure. Didn't commit a single turnover and did win this time of possession battle. A direct result of why you won that game. Your defense wasn't on the field for 30-some minutes like Michigan's was. But, be that as it may, your defense did give up 21 first downs to the Hawks. But the Hawks only went 8 of 18 on third down. That's 44.4%. Penn State gave up 70 yards on the ground. Again, pretty good. In fact, quite dominant. But gave up 286 yards through the air. That made Nate Stanley look competent. Not very good, considering he hasn't looked that competent against many teams this year. Not bad, but not great. This game shouldn't have given up 286 passing yards to him. Stanley went 25 of 43 passing, 1 touchdown to 1 big thrown, and 356 yards of total offense. Hawks only committed 1 penalty for 5 yards, so quite impressive. Penn State, the fact that you're able to commit 8 penalties and still won the game considering your opponent only committed 1. You did force 2 turnovers, and again you won the time possession battle. The game would have been not as close if you could have gotten some more yards through the air, if you wouldn't have committed so many penalties, and if you could have converted some more third downs. But a good victory for the Nittany Lions, especially on the road. Not an easy place to play in Iowa City. Just ask the Buckeyes a couple years ago when they lost badly to that same Hawkeye squad in Iowa City. Look at the last 5 meetings between these two teams. Last year, Michigan hammered Penn State in the Big House. Both teams were ranked in the top 15, 42-7, a dominant victory for the Wolverines. But the year before that, Penn State smashed Michigan in Happy Valley, 42-13. Many people called that game last year a revenge game for Michigan. Could this year be another revenge game now for Penn State? Time will tell. We will see, or at least we'll see my prediction later on. In 2016, Michigan hammered Penn State again, this time in the Big House, 49-10. Michigan was ranked 4th, Penn State wasn't ranked. In 2015, the last time the road team won in this particular series, that was the 12th ranked Wolverines at that time, beating Penn State 28-16 in Happy Valley. And in 2014, Michigan won in a close game between both teams were unranked that year, 18-13. Let's look at the tail of the tape for these two teams now head-to-head and see how they stack up. Like I said, Michigan doesn't fare nicely on the offensive side versus Penn State. But Michigan does get inside the 20 quite often, probably because of their defense giving them a short field, because their defense has forced 12 turnovers this year. You're welcome, Michigan defense. Since Michigan does get inside the 20 4.8 times per game, that is 9th nationally. Again, quite impressive. But you don't score very much when you get inside the 20. All those times you've been inside the 20, you've only scored less than 3/4 of those times. At 72.4% red zone scoring efficiency, that is 111th in the country. And you're only scoring touchdowns 58.6% of the time when you get inside the 20. Have to clean that up, especially against a team like Penn State, whom, as we are looking at on the right side of the screen, scores quite often when they get inside the 20. The Lions' biggest problem is they don't get inside the 20 as often as you would like. At only 3.4 attempts per game, that is 66th nationally. But when those Lions get inside the 20, they score 96% of the time. That is 7th nationally, and the Lions score touchdowns 76% of the time when they get inside the 20. Impressive for Penn State. For Michigan, definitely a red flag. Moving forward, let's see how efficient both offenses are in total. Michigan is atrocious, where Penn State is quite dominant. Michigan's the road team. We'll look at them first. At only acquiring 387.3 yards of offense per game on average, that ranks 84th nationally. That number would be a lot less if we only looked at the Iowa and Wisconsin games, but I wasn't able to do that. Unfortunately, I apologize. Third down efficiency, Michigan ranks 91st in the country at 37%. That's a big problem. You're leaving your defense on the field for far too long, and that defense will get tired. That defense will get gassed. That defense is playing a much, much more powerful offense this week than they did the last couple of games against Illinois and Iowa. This is, in fact, a similar offense to Wisconsin, except Penn State is more balanced, as we'll soon see. And, like we talked about in the food for thought, Michigan is at -1 on the turnover margin because their offense keeps giving up the ball. It's not that your defense doesn't force turnovers. 12 turnovers forced is quite impressive. But you're giving up 13 of them. You've given up 13 of them, I should say. That turnover margin of -1 ranks 76 nationally. Looking at Penn State, quite dominant across the board at 465.3 yards of offense per game, but is 28th nationally. Penn State ranks 29th nationally in third down conversions at 44.2% per game. And the +3 turnover margin is a testament to Penn State's both offense and defense working together quite well. That turnover margin is 27th nationally. In fact, several teams are at +3. Passing offense, both teams not great. Penn State is, though, significantly better than Michigan in this department. We'll look at Michigan's lack of passing offense first. At 55.8% completion percentage per game, that is 106th nationally. I don't know why Shea Patterson struggles so much. I have no idea. I've watched bits and pieces of some games. In my opinion, Michigan needs to go for some short to intermediate passes more often to give him some confidence and easy completions to raise that number. At only 231.2 passing yards per game, that is 73rd nationally. That wouldn't be bad if your running game could get off the ground. Pun intended. But as we'll soon see, you struggle in that department as well. And you can't even say that, oh, he gets sacked too much. You're only allowing 1.8 sacks per game. Your offensive line is actually pretty good, considering Shea Patterson holds onto the ball far too long. 1.8 sacks per game allowed ranks 53rd nationally. Not horrible. Not great, not horrible. Your offensive line does a good job. That's in my opinion, based on that stat. But somehow Shea Patterson has avoided throwing the ball to their team. He just throws the ball to nobody more often than not, it seems like, at only throwing 4 picks this year. Not bad considering Michigan has played 6 games. Looking at Penn State, not great, but significantly better than Michigan. At 63.7% completion percentage this year for Sean Clifford, that ranks 42nd nationally. Not too bad. Not great, not too bad. Definitely can use some improvement going forward when Penn State plays Ohio State later on in the year. 274.2 passing yards per game for Penn State, that ranks 36th nationally. Not too bad, but as we'll soon see, Penn State runs the ball more often than they pass. But since Penn State doesn't throw the ball a whole lot, allowing 2 sacks per game is a red flag to me. That ranks 64th nationally. But be that as it may, Sean Clifford has only thrown 2 picks this year. Pretty good, and that is a testament to why you're undefeated Penn State. Now let's look at those rushing splits. As you can see, Michigan doesn't do well in this department either. At 156.2 rushing yards per game, that's 78th nationally for Michigan. Not too bad against the run, only allowing 122.8 yards per game on the ground. That ranks 39th nationally. That would be fine if Penn State wasn't decent in the passing game. Since Penn State is pretty balanced, again, Michigan doesn't match up well against Penn State. Because Penn State is decent at both, as we see, rushing yards per game for the Lions is 191.2 yards. Not as dominant as when they had Saquon Barkley, but still pretty good. That's 43rd nationally. Where Penn State excels and where Michigan may run into a buzzsaw is on Penn State's defensive line. At 53.8 yards of rushing yards allowed per game, that's 3rd best in the country. That's not good for Michigan. Statistically, not great for Michigan. Okay, it's like I can't say any more clearer than that. Michigan does not stack up well against this team, at least on paper. I know games aren't played on paper. Sad to say, the way Michigan plays on offense, it might as well be. This team hasn't changed anything the whole year. Despite the struggles they've had on offense, they don't change anything. Have to do something different against this team, but we'll get to that later. Looking at the passing defense, Michigan doesn't do bad. But Michigan allows far too many passes to be completed against them, at allowing 61.78% of passes completed against them. That's 70th nationally. But when those opposing quarterbacks complete those passes, they are obviously for little gains, considering Michigan is giving up on average 160.5 yards per game. But let's look and see who they played this year. Michigan's played Iowa. They played Wisconsin. They played Army. Those teams don't pass the ball very much. So this stat can be just, I guess, embellished a bit because Michigan has not played air raid style offenses. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess. But Michigan has got after the quarterback pretty well at 3 sacks per game. That is 26 nationally. But only has acquired 5 picks in total. Definitely want to raise that number a bit. But again, they haven't had many opportunities to pick the ball off because haven't played against many teams that throw the ball all that much. On the flip side, Penn State has been pretty impressive as far as completion percentage allowed, and only allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete 56.74% of their passes. That ranks 29th in the country. And at only allowing 205.8 yards per game through the air, that ranks 49th nationally. Not great, not bad. Penn State has faced more pass-happy teams than Michigan, but not that much more. So take it with a grain of salt, if you will. And Penn State has got after the quarterback very well themselves at 4 sacks per game. That's 6th best in the country. And both teams have only acquired 5 picks. You'd want to see those numbers improve, especially going forward when Penn State and Michigan play more pass-happy teams later on in the year. And in the postseason as well. Offensive scoring efficiency. Michigan is okay, but really some of the Illinois game has helped add to this scoring per game average at 30.3 points per game. Michigan is outscoring opponents on average by 12.8 points. That ranks 25th nationally. The first quarter, Michigan scores their most points, it seems like, at 9.2 points per first quarter played. That's 22nd nationally. Not too shabby. But in the fourth quarter, Michigan struggles, and this is why I say, personally, Michigan isn't built to come back from a deficit, especially a large one, which is what they could face in this game, at only scoring on average 6.8 points in the money quarter, that is the fourth quarter. That ranks 71st nationally. For Penn State, pretty impressive, scoring on average 34.6 points this year. And outscoring their opponents by 26.2 points, that ranks 7th nationally. Penn State also does an excellent job at scoring in the first quarter at 9.8 points on average. That ranks 15th nationally. In the money quarter, the fourth quarter, Penn State scores on average 7.6 points. Not bad, not great. This team isn't built wonderfully well to come back from a deficit. It was more than, say, 7.6. But this team is built better than Michigan at coming back because they do have a decent offense. Now, points allowed, both teams are quite dominant in this category, is a true testament to their coaching and their heart on the defensive side of the football. Michigan is only allowing 17.5 points per game. That is 14th nationally. The Iowa game definitely helped. In the first quarter, Michigan is only allowing 4.7 points. That is 42nd nationally. In the money quarter, Michigan does an excellent job at shutting the door at only allowing opponents 2.5 points scored in the fourth. That is 5th in the country. But Penn State does Michigan better in all fronts in these particular categories. At only allowing 8.4 points per game, that's second best in the country. Also second best in the country, the amount of first quarter points allowed per game for Penn State at less than a point, 0.6 to be exact. That is mind-boggling for me. I believe that's second only to Wisconsin. Or Ohio State, I can't remember which. In the fourth quarter, Penn State, no one does better than Penn State at shutting the door, at only allowing 1.2 points. In the money quarter, that ranks best in the country. So basically, this game pits two heavyweight teams on the defensive side against each other. This should be a fun one to watch, at least for a while, until one of the defenses gets tired and the opposing offense can take advantage of it. Self-imposed errors. Michigan is quite effective at shooting themselves in the foot, at committing 6.17 penalties per game. That's 57th nationally, leaving 47 yards of penalty yards per game on the field. Not horrible, but where Michigan is very awful at is committing turnovers. At 13 turnovers this offense has given up, that ranks 118th in the country. Penn State, quite effective at not shooting themselves in the foot, at only committing 4.67 penalties per game. That ranks 11th. But those penalties Penn State commits are potentially bad ones, at leaving 50.83 penalty yards on the field per game. Penn State also does well at holding onto the ball, at only averaging 1 turnover per game, 6 in total. That is 20th nationally. Pretty good. If we look at the neat tidbits, there are some interesting tidbits for this matchup. These two teams played each other for the first time in 1993. That is when Penn State came into the Big Ten. For those of you that don't know, Penn State hasn't been in the Big Ten horribly long. I believe they were independent before entering the Big Ten, I think. And Michigan did win that matchup in Happy Valley, 21-13, beating Joe Pa's Nittany Lions. At that time, it was under Joe Paterno. Michigan does hold the advantage in this series, not by a large margin, but does hold the advantage at 14 wins, 8 losses, 0 ties. The winning team has scored. This is an interesting stat. I had to go back and make sure I was correct in this. The winning team has scored 42 points 2 years straight. And as we saw earlier, both teams have split this series the last two times. Interesting. I don't really know why. It's just strange, I guess, for lack of better words. Road team hasn't won the series since 2015. We talked about that earlier. Michigan's all-time win-loss tie record ranks second all-time at 958 wins, 343 losses, and 36 ties. Penn State hasn't done horrible at 10th all-time at 893 wins, 391 losses, and 42 ties. I always like bringing those up because it adds a little bit of perspective to how well these teams have played historically. Important, I think. So let's look at where Michigan wins if you play loose on offense and change things up. We talked about that earlier. The way you've been playing on offense, whatever it is, obviously isn't working. You have to change something up. Not to mention, I've seen this in another video, Shea Patterson really doesn't seem to be playing loose and relaxed like he did when he played for the Rebels years ago. Patterson needs to relax. Not to mention, Michigan needs to have the ability to be able to change their offensive schemes if the defense figures them out. Your offense needs to be fluid. It needs to be able to be changed if you're seeing something that the defense is doing that is halting your offense. Got to have the ability to change it, and Michigan doesn't seem to be capable of that this whole year. We'll look at the Wisconsin-Iowa games as reference points to that point. You have to establish some sort of a running game against this team. It's not going to be simple, considering this team is built to stop the run. Got to try something creative, like I already said, to get some yards on the ground. Take some pressure off of Shea Patterson. You're not an air raid offense. Stop acting like you are. Run the ball some. Have some runs outside, some end arounds, something to get some yards on the ground. Force Penn State into a 3-and-out on their first possession. Quiet that huge fan base a little bit. Give yourselves a little bit of confidence. Throw some screens and short passes early to give Shea Patterson some confidence. Even some intermediate routes, some slants, skinny posts, something. Something small to give yourselves some confidence and get some easy completions to start the game. Or if you want to just go big. Go for a big play or a big pass to start the game. I don't think Penn State's going to expect that. Try something you haven't done this year to try to knock Penn State off balance a little bit on defense. That's what I'm trying to say. Put yourselves in 3rd and short versus 3rd and longs to give yourselves a chance to stay on the field on 3rd down on O. That goes back to our previous point. Establish some running game. Get some yards on 1st and 2nd down. You're probably not going to get 10 to 20 chunk plays every possession. If you have to move it incrementally, nickel and dime it up the field, do so. But convert some of those 3rd downs. Keep your defense on the sideline. Let them rest. Keep that high-powered Penn State offense on the sideline too. Tire that Penn State defense. Make them weaker. And you have to shut down that Penn State running attack. Force Penn State into being one-dimensional like you always seem to play on offense. Make Sean Clifford beat you with his arm. Now Penn State, you win if you can consistently convert on 3rd down like you've done a good job of most of the year, and keep that Michigan defense on the field like they've been most of the year, giving your fans something to cheer about throughout the game. Make that wide out to your advantage. Use that wide out and suffocate that Michigan defense. Force Michigan to consistent 3rd and longs when they're on offense. Shouldn't be hard to do considering Michigan has done a good job of not converting on 3rd down this year. Have to force Michigan to be in a passing team, which is what Michigan has unfortunately been forced to do this year. You've seen the Wisconsin and the Iowa games. When Michigan is forced into being a pass-happy team, they do struggle. Stay relaxed. Don't beat yourselves on your side of the ball. Don't commit unnecessary penalties. Try to hold on to the ball like you've done a good job of this year. And take advantage of the most likely Michigan miscues that they'll make and try to force some miscues on defense and offense. When you see Michigan out of position on defense, take advantage of it. When Shea Patterson throws an errant pass, try to get a defender in the area to be there to make the pick and give your offense a short field to work with. That's going to help you immensely against a tough, stout Michigan defense. Keep them on their heels. But I've talked a lot. Now to make my prediction. Honestly, it's not an easy one to make because a lot of things could happen. Michigan could actually change things on offense. Michigan could realize they're in desperation mode. I'm not convinced Michigan realizes they're in desperation mode. Jim Harbaugh doesn't think they're in desperation mode. They should have been in desperation mode in the Wisconsin game. But they weren't. They weren't in the Iowa game. Just luckily Don Brown's defense bailed them out. I don't see Michigan being in desperation mode in this game either, which is why I'm picking the Nittany Lions to win 27-10. Michigan's offense may not score 10 points. Their defense may score 10 points. Their special teams may score 10 points. If Michigan can't change things on offense, they're going to lose this game, and it's not going to be very pretty. I believe Penn State wins this game because of the wideout. Because Michigan won't change things on offense. Because they might as well telegraph their playbook to Penn State. Anybody can tell what they're going to do if they just watch the film. Michigan needs to not be so daggone predictable. Penn State's not. Wisconsin's not. I mean, you got to change things up. I don't see it happening. Michigan, Wolverine faithful, I'm sorry. I don't see your team having a chance to win this game because I don't think your coaches are willing to change things up and keep Penn State guessing. This will be the end of your hopes for this year, and this game might make Jim Harbaugh's seat a little warmer. I don't know. I won't make that prediction myself. This is not a gambling channel. Please don't take the 17-point spread to think that you should bet on Penn State to cover the spread, which I believe is 9 points. If you're going to do that stuff, watch another video. I use this score just as a baseline to describe how far apart these two teams are, in my opinion. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you did indeed like it. Please subscribe if you want to see more of my content. Hit the notification bell to let you know when I produce more content. Please hit the dislike button if you did not like this video. And share this video, of course, with friends and family that love football as much as we do, especially college football. Please let me know in the comment section below what you think of my channel thus far, what you've seen of it. I would like to engage in conversation if I can. So, please let me know what you thought of this game. If you have any differing opinions, please let me know. Maybe you just hate Penn State. You can't believe I picked Penn State over your beloved Wolverines. Let me know. But also, please let me know why you think your Wolverines have a chance. Maybe I missed something. Once again, thank you for watching, and you have a wonderful day or night.